All right, folks, welcome back. We are at the 2018 NASA Championships presented by Toyo Tires. Group D up next, 944 Spec and Spec E30. Going to have two starts here. First wave will be our 944 Specs. That'll be a flying start. Second wave will be a standing start for Spec E30. So the first wave flying, Marcelo Vine out in front, then Norman Hamden, Charles Bazzetti, Phil Hansen. Charlie and Phil had a great battle yesterday. Darren Griffith, John Perkins, Michael Cooper, Jeff Weiner, Tom Atterbury, then Tara Brewster, Michael Clark, Philip Asteen, Shane Denny, Sean Taylor, Steve Brewster, Sean Foltz, Team TSB Racing, and Elliot Fryrick. And we do know that Dan Pena, I think, is going to be out there in Steve Brewster's car.
That's right.
So Dan blowed up, but that's the 944 Spec community. And we've got a car now for Dan Pena, so he'll be starting at the back of that group and hoping for another championship. You can see Dan right there coming into your shot.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting race, John. Dan Pena is starting from the very back, multi-time NASA 944 Spec champion. He is going to have a fantastic race, I do hope. So the second wave is going to be a standing start. That'll be our Spec E30s. Led on the pole by Tim Barber, and on the front row next to him, Silas Montgomery. Second row, Daniel Goldberg and Olivier Bellinger. Steve Stepanian and Brian Edwards following them, followed by Alex Barroso, Carlos Mendez, Rob Eskew, Sean Quinlan, Eric Pennington, Felipe Pellerin, Chris Allen, Scott McKay, Jason Griscavage, Corey Smith, Neil Daly, Richard Montoni, Bennett McMicking, Oscar Edmonds, Greg Gamolka, Team Ed Sukchai, Charlie Dirador, Benjamin Kirkbride, James Colson, Eric Sidebotham, Chris Bellew, Nick Thiemann, Clay Pierce and Cliff Pierce, Sandro Espinoza, Sean Aaron, Chris Cabetto, and Gavin Bristow. So we've got some big names at the very end there, John. Chris Cabetto, Sandro Espinoza. Should see some moves coming from the back of the pack. In fact, both races here, 944 Spec, of course, we've got Dan Pena all the way at the back. I think this is going to be a quite exciting race, John.
You bet. Champions all through the grid there. Two very competitive classes, identically prepared cars. So these are drivers' classes, not builders' classes. .944 Spec there on your screen. Again, they are going to have a flying start. E30's tucked in right behind them for their standing start. Ideally, we will have half a lap separation between the two of them when the E30s start off. We are going to use the Formula One style lights.
It's so cool that we get to use those.
Indeed. So we are waiting for our field to come into turn 19 there. 944s will come around through turn 20. Grid right up. Flying start. Adios. Be interesting to see how the top four or so sort themselves out. Charlie Bazzetti, of course, multiple time champion. Here they are. They're all formed up. There they are. Marcelo Vine is the car with the yellow hood. Norm has the gold 944. Charlie is the car with the stripes. The red car with the white stripes. And Phil is the darker blue colored car. 944s coming around turn 20 now. There's your super cool drone shot. 944s are getting ready to go. Nice start. And they are away. 944 Spec is away.
Green flag, green flag.
Green, green, green. Looks like about 4 wide, but Not as nuts as we've seen in some of the other groups. Marcelo Vine still out front.
And look at that, Charlie
nice
just
move
following
by Charlie
right
on Marcelo's
right
bumper.
up the middle, yeah.
Charlie making a move up in the second position right off the bat. And the 944s are through clean.
Charlie Bazzetti is such an intelligent racer. I mean, you know, he could have gone out and run for the front spot into the hole shot there, but he played it safe, jumped behind Marcelo Vine, and it paid off for him there, whereas the other guys who were scattering out, going around, and trying to get it done immediately, I don't think it worked out quite so well for him there.
Known Charlie for over 20 years, and that's just not how he rolls. He is a gentleman racer, the true definition.
All right, we've got our Spec E30 stopped on the front straight now. We're going to wait for those F1-style gantry lights. They're all going to illuminate, and then when they go out, that means it's time to go. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
And we will be able to, at some point during the race, speak to Steve Stepanian, because Steve did give us a radio as he has in past events. So we will be able to chat with Steve during the race, but we'll let him get started first.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd answer the radio right this second there, John. He's probably a little occupied.
And
being
the
the fifth
E30s
place starter.
are away. There they go.
Wow, great start from Tim Barber there.
No stalls. Good job by the E30 field. Boy, they are getting a little aggressive there.
Yeah, looks like they're
Fairly
4
wide.
wide into turn 1 there. Tim Barber way out front.
There we go. And everybody...
A little bit of turtle hop in there.
Ooh,
Whoa, a
lot of
little
turtle
bump from the
hopping.
rear.
Looks like everybody is through clean, though. Great job by Spec E30 thus far. So we will wait for these two classes to come through, and then we'll give you some running order. But
Yeah,
we
look
are
at
seeing
that.
Spec E30
Great
just
run
flying.
through turn 3 there. Here they come into
Ooh,
5 and
oh,
6.
that's-
Whoa. Oh, that's a cut.
That's a cut.
We'll see if he gained any positions as a result of it there.
Well, I haven't chatted with the race director from this class, but that may be something that filters into the stewards later on. So again, this is Spec E30 and 944 Spec. Here at the Circuit of the Americas, you can see our 944s there on your screen right now. All of them looking good as they come through. There's turn 20, Marcelo Vine still out in front. He's pulled out from Charlie.
Yeah, pulled out
Phil's
a nice
right
gap there.
There's Norm.
It looks like Norm may have fallen back there.
A little bit.
A couple of positions.
All right, they're coming through the line right now.
Yeah, Norm Hamden back down to 4th place, and Marcelo Vine
That was
leading.
Darren Griffith, not Phil Hansen. So Darren Griffith with a big move up into 3rd place. Way to go, Darren.
And look at this. Look down to the back of the pack there. John Dan Pena up 5 places into 10th position.
But of course. And I think Phil Hansen at turn 1 there, you did see that happen. Yep, Phil is in front of Norm Hamden right now. Of course, Norm Hamden, Team Safety Driving School's impresario, keeping teen drivers safe out there in Arizona. I think that's Dan Pena right there in that yellow car. Again, Steve Brewster, Gentleman Racer Award of the Year, loaning his car out to Dan, so Dan had a shot at the championship
That
after
is just
he
so
blew his
cool.
motor. Well, that's 944 Spec for you. Great community. Here we are. There's our Spec E30s. I saw a caved-in quarter panel there. There's Scott McKay with that crazy Dale Earnhardt livery. He's charging up through the field. We'll get them across the line here in a few minutes. Or not a few minutes, very quickly. So let's see Spec E30 coming along through 19. There's the drone shot of the E30s. They're going to come around onto the front straight, and we will have running order in Spec E30 for you in just a minute. There's your E30 leaders into turn 20 onto the front straight. Tim Barber still out in front, then Silas Montgomery, Alex Barroso, Steve Stepanian up into 4th, then Dan Goldberg, Olivier Belanger, then Carlos Mendez, Sean Quinlan, Philippe Pellerin, Rob Eskew, Brian Edmonds, Chris Allen, Jason Griskavage, Eric Pennington, Corey Smith, and Scott McKay, then Bennett McMicking, Oscar Edmonds, Neil Daly, and Nick Tiemann. That is your top 20 in Spec E30. 1 lap complete. Working lap 2.
Yeah, and 32 Spec E30s. That's a great crowd out there. Not quite as many as we had Miatas, but still, that's lots of Spec E30s. Spec E30s are really fun cars to drive. You know, they were very similar to the Miata, but with a bit more torque from that straight 6 from BMW.
These cars run about equivalent lap times in my experience, so there should be some good separation. unless we get a little bit of an incident that will bunch everybody up for a restart. Again, 45 minutes, just like the other championship races for our 944 Spec and Spec E30 races. Marcelo Vine out in front. Ooh, he's got a nice lead there. Then Charlie Bizzetti. Believe that is still Darren Griffith.
Almost 4 seconds that gap now between Marcelo Vine and Charlie Bizzetti.
Marcelo's in a hurry.
He is. I would be too.
Yeah, strong choice. All right, well, let's look at the running order in 944 Spec. Marcelo Vine, 4 seconds out in front of Charlie Bizzetti, then another 3 back to Darren Griffith. Phil Hansen is all over Darren, and Norm is right there, too. Norm Hamden in 5th position. Jeff Weiner in 6th, then Michael Cooper. Dan Pena up 7 positions to P8, then Tom Atterbury. Michael Clark, Sean Taylor, Shane Denny. Philip Asteen, then Sean Foltz. Team TSB Racing. John Perkins, and it looks like Tara Brewster is not out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure why she's showing up on the list there, John, but yeah, definitely not clocking any laps. See how we're doing over here in Spec E30 now as we are watching them come through turn 15, so almost completing their second lap. In fact, you know, go ahead and wait to give the order until they make it through the finish line next time here. We can see that Spec E30s are still running nose to tail for the most part. Lots of great battles going on. We see our leader heading through turn 19 now. Big gap starting to form at the front of the Spec E30 grid.
Great shot right
Love
there.
that drone shot.
That's pretty darn cool. As they come onto the front straight, let's see what's going on in Spec E30. Looks like Tim Barber is out to a sizable lead. 2.5 so far, then Silas Montgomery, Alex Barroso, Steve Stepanian in 4th, Dan Goldberg, then Olivia Belanger, Carlos Mendez, Sean Quinlan, Brian Edmonds, and Rob Eskew. That's your top 10 in Spec E30.
We've got another one on the list here who does not appear to actually be out there. That would be Eric Sidebotham. Eric Sidebotham, one of our local NorCal guys, local to John and I here. But showing on the list, but not clocking any laps there.
And I do have a report that Tara Brewster did have a mechanical failure, and she is out of the race but safe and headed back to the paddock right now. There's your E30s, all of them together. There's Tara right there.
Did you see that E30 shot, John? It looked like we had another one going way far across the infield there.
Yep. They're going for it. It is a championship race, so it is time to send it.
All the marbles, John. All of them.
All the marbles. All the marbles, all the enchiladas, all of those good things.
And hopefully no golden goose eggs.
Right on. All right, 944 is there. You see the leaders. Marcelo Vine way out in front. 4.6 seconds back to Charlie. Then Phil Hansen has moved back into 3rd ahead of Darren Griffith and Norm Hamden. All right there. Michael Cooper, Dan Pena up into P7. Jeff Weiner hanging in there in P8. Tom Atterbury and Michael Clark. Sean Taylor, P11. Then Shane Denny, Philip Asteen. Sean Foltz, Team TSB. And John Perkins. Those are your 944s that are still going. Field of 16 cars.
And Dan Pena is slowly chipping away at him there, John. His lap time's not super impressive so far. 2:48.795 and a 2:47.965 for the car in front of him. He's got a 1.9 second gap to make up. But, you know, he's just slowly chipping away at it. Also, I have no idea how much experience Dan Pena has in that car. I hope that he got out in the he may have gone out in the hardship session this morning, first thing.
That's true.
So, I mean, he may have physically turned a wheel in it, but, yeah, I mean, racing experience, you're right, John, absolutely none. So, I mean, but the difference between hopping in the car for the very first time and maybe having a 10 or 15-minute practice session could be very big. So I wonder how much experience he got in it and how that's going to play into his performance here during the race.
E30 leaders now coming around turn 19. Into turn 20, we'll see them on the front straight in just a minute. There's your E30 leader, Tim Barber, now with a 1.7 second lead over Silas Montgomery, Alex Barroso, 2.3 seconds back from them. Then a big gap back to Steve Stepanian, who's getting challenged right now by Daniel Goldberg. That's Stepanian in the white car, Goldberg just behind. A little bit of a draft there, so that's going to be something to watch. The next 5 or 6 positions, inside pass there. Pretty good. There's a lot of shuffling going on right in that turn 1 area. So that's something to watch as we go along. There they go, the Spec E30.
You know, John, I think that the gap between Silas Montgomery and Tim Barber has actually decreased pretty considerably over the last couple laps. Tim Barber ran away pretty good. He had a couple of seconds in front, but that is closing up at this point. Silas Montgomery doing a great job running him down out there. We'll see if the gap decreases this next lap by.
All right, 944 leaders getting ready to come around onto the front straight again. There's Marcelo Vine through 19. Charlie Bazzetti just behind. I think Phil Hansen is back up into third. There's Marcelo right there. Nice clean line, very under control. Charlie's right there. Phil Hansen a little bit loose that time by. Darren Griffith. There's Norm in that gold 944. So a lot of spread in the top 5 in 944. And a big gap, almost 8 seconds back to Michael Cooper and Dan Pena. The gold car is Norm Hamden. Then as you come up the hill, the car with the yellow on it, that is Dan Pena, and Michael Cooper is just in front of him. Dan is approximately a second and a half behind. We see a waving yellow flag right there on your display right now, so we do have an incident working. That is right there in turn 5 and 6, so we do have an incident between 5 and 6. It is a waving yellow. So that will slow cars through there. Remember, waving yellow means there's something that's immediately online and you need to be prepared to go evasive. So no passing in that zone until they reach the incident. So we'll see what's going on with that one. Waiting for our E30 leaders to come around again. They are right now going into 19, down into 20. There you see them on the screen. Spec E30 leaders now on the front straight.
Look at that. The gap almost staying the same there, John. It was 1.7. Now it's 1.8. So Barber moving away just a little bit. Both of them obviously with a slower lap this time by because of that yellow zone. 243,
like
168.
Has some breathing room now. But look at that next group of 3 cars that was coming down the front straight.
Yeah, it looks like 7th, 8th, and 9th place are very close to each other. Oh, no, I'm sorry. 6th place is included in that as well.
They are.
2 tenths, 4 tenths, 5 tenths. Yep.
Great battle happening right there for
that
positions.
Is all for position. One of the nice things about these large spec classes like this, John, is that they're very obvious which cars are in your class and not. And the other thing is that they generally don't mix together that much. So, I mean, it's a lot of heads-up racing.
About 17 minutes complete, 4 laps complete, working lap 5. 45-minute contest scheduled. Again, this is our Group D championship race, Spec E30 and 944 Spec. 2 classes really known for their community there. Now you see the reason probably for our yellow there. Sorry, we are having a little interference with the drone. A lot of electronic communications happening here that sometimes manage to frag our signal a little bit. And now the drone is making me dizzy. In the immortal words of Beavis and Butthead, All right, Marcelo Vine there putting on a clinic in 944 Spec. Charlie Bazzetti just behind.
Yeah, I'm watching the gaps in 944 Spec there to see where they're going. Look at this. Dan Pena now only 3 tenths of a second.
Let's go back to that
Michael
front
Cooper.
straight cam if we can. Here we go. Here's Dan
that's Pena.
on Michael Cooper. Let's follow these guys around. That's going to be a great battle. Dan is exactly behind Michael Cooper right now.
Now, once he gets around him, if he gets around him, he's got
Dan Pena to the
9.8.
inside. Dan Pena
Look
just
at that.
Pulled off the pass.
Seals the deal. So now, John, he does have 9 seconds to gain up before he gets to the next position, which is Norman Hamden. So a big gap to make up, but Dan Pena running tough so far here. If anybody can do it, he just might be able to.
I think he's our hard charger in 944 Spec for sure.
Oh, definitely, by a lot now. He's up 9 positions total.
Although Sandro Espinoza in E30 is up 14 positions from where he started.
Well, you know, he was another one we were looking at there, John. I mean, he's a very fast runner, and he had a very bad qualifying session yesterday, so he started towards the back there. Same thing with Chris Cabetto, and Cabetto has moved up as well. In fact, I'm looking for where Cabetto is right now.
I don't think he's out there. I think Chris was listed on the grid sheet, but he did crack his oil pan yesterday, so he's out.
That's what it was. You're right,
Yep.
John. He is out mechanical. That is unfortunate,
Chris,
but you're right.
Chris
I
told
remember
me
we
the
were reading
story
off the grid earlier.
Chris told me the story. He was right behind another car, and that car moved, and all of a sudden there was a turtle. Centered it up, hit it pretty hard, and that was the end of the day. Overheated the motor. All of the oil came out and sent him around. There you have your E30 leaders going through turn 1. It's the pointy end of the E30 grid right there. Boy, they're right together there, kind of in that 6th through 10th part of the E30 field. Great battle there.
And that gap from Barber to Montgomery widening up just ever so slightly. It's 2 seconds now. So, I mean, we're dealing with tenths.
Watching the 944s there. Here comes Marcelo Vine, our leader. Down through turn 20, then Charlie Bazzetti. Phil Hansen is starting to close on Charlie. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Now let's see where Darren Griffith comes through. There's Darren Griffith. Now, has Dan Pena found Norm Hamden yet? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, with 9 seconds to gain, I think it's going to take him a little bit longer than that. Couple of laps at least.
I believe there's quite a spread still. So there's Norm. He's the gold car that is just coming up the hill right now.
And
that
it looks
car
like
with the yellow right there, that is Dan Pena.
Yeah, 10 seconds in between them, John, so he actually lost a little bit of room
Cooper's not
there.
giving up. Look, he is right there, right behind Dan Pena.
Yep.
So
yep, and Dan Pena only 0.2 of a second faster than Hamden.
Yep.
That last lap around.
That's
so
not
Dan
gonna
Pena's,
get it done.
yeah, he's going to have to really wake up some more time out of that car if he's going to catch up with Norman Hamden.
Another great shot from up above. You can see the E30s working through there, all sorts of different lines around that corner. Double apex. All right, there's your E30 leader coming around turn 20 right now. Beautiful job thus far by Tim Barber. About 3.5 seconds in front of Silas Montgomery.
Oh, big increase to the gap there now. That was a second and a half just in that lap.
So Tim Barber is flying. Again, he did have a successful couple of runs in USAC there, so he can drive just about anything and drive it real fast. Here comes a great battle in E30. 5 cars all right together. So again, battles all through the field in E30. Then there was another group of 4 or 5 on the front straight that were going after each other. So wherever you are in this class, you are going to have somebody to race with. 22 minutes complete, working lap 7. Again, we have 45 minutes scheduled for this race. Depending on how much time we can stay green, that will determine how many laps we can notch. We do it by time and not by laps completed. There's your E30 field, again working through those S's. Staying within the lines, coloring within the lines. There's Marcelo Vine. Uh-oh, where's Charlie? Oh, very slow E30 that Charlie had to avoid. Whoa, and Phil Hansen's going to use that to his advantage.
Yeah, that was an opportunistic move.
Look at this, drag race down the front straight. Charlie's not pleased about that. He's trying to move over a little bit on Phil.
You can see him moving over there.
Oh, boy, look at that. Watch these two guys as they come up the front straight. Phil Hansen challenging Charlie Bazzetti. Charlie's pulling even with Phil. Who's going to break first? Mano a mano. Now, Charlie might try the old in and out here. Phil got him. Let's see how long that lasts. Let's see turn 3. Boy, that was a masterful job by Phil Hansen when Charlie had to lift for that slow car.
That was, he was back there biding his time. He found his opportunity. He took it, and it stuck.
Is it me or is Phil's hood up a little bit? Hey, there's Dan Pena. Not too far back.
Do 944 hoods open from the front?
Yes.
Okay.
Unlike the E30.
Yeah, the E30, you know, sort of a built-in safety for forgetful racers who forget their hood pins. You know, the E30 has the clamshell style hood, so it can only open like that if you were to spin out and be going backwards.
Well, let's watch that great battle between Charlie Bazzetti now and Phil Hansen. Just like yesterday, those two are going after each other for the second and third steps on the podium. Wow, that was great. I mean, Phil just read that one beautifully.
Yeah, that was a sneaky move. He got it done.
Well, but you know, no yellow or anything like that out. Perfectly legal thing to do.
Now here's Tim Barber passing a lapped 944. So, you know, the same situation could come into play for E30. It looks like there are two 944s in between Tim Barber and Silas Montgomery now, and the gap up to 4.1 seconds. So Tim Barber starting to settle in there in first place in Spec E30.
And just like football or basketball, you can set a little bit of a pick there with a lapped car, so that can be very useful if you're trying to keep somebody behind you.
Well, Sandro up to 13th place now. He is up 17 positions, so he's got a half a second from him to Eric Pennington in 12th place. We will have to see how Sandro Espinosa manages to work his way up the grid as this race goes on.
Steve Stepanian still hanging there in 4th place. We may ring him up later when it looks like he's not so busy. But he is having a great race. Up 1 position from where he started, but I think the hard charger is indeed Sandro Espinosa. Wow, 17 positions. That's
well, look at this, John. This is worth mentioning also. Sean Aaron down there in 16th place. He is up 15 positions.
Not too shabby.
Great job there by Sean Aaron. And Sean Aaron is 1.4 seconds behind his next rival there. And he did just clock his best lap of the race at 2:45.333.
All right, let's see what's happening with Charlie Bazzetti and Phil Hansen. Marcelo Vine just going through turn 1 right now, so Phil and Charlie should be coming up the front straight. Charlie's back out in front of Phil.
Charlie got him back.
So Charlie got him back. Cool. Well, not cool. I like Phil. I like Charlie. But
we don't play favorites here.
Hey, full disclosure, I've been friends with Charlie for well over 20 years. So.
Look at this, John. Dan Pena up to 5th place now. But now again,
what happened to Norm?
He's got Norm is back to 8th place, so something must have happened. Oh no,
Norm is falling.
I think Norm is out.
Yep, I think Norm may be out. Bummer.
Oh, that is too bad.
Norm Hamden, one of the nicest guys you will ever meet. Again, he's developed that team safety school in Arizona. Known Norm forever. That gold 944 that he has. I believe he has had that car for a long time. It used to be a street car that he would drive to the track and then go racing in. So, wonderful guy. Sorry to see Norm dropping down in the order. Looks like he done blowed up.
So now Dan has 12 seconds to make up between him and 4th place, so that is going to be all but insurmountable at this point. I mean, he's done the unthinkable so far. Let's see if he can continue on doing it. He's got 12 seconds up to Darren Griffith in 4th place, and then between Darren Griffith and the podium spot, we've got another 9 seconds. I mean, that is a massive amount of time, John.
Well,
we're 26 minutes elapsed, so only 20 minutes left in the session, probably only 15 or so of actual green flag racing. So we'll see where this ends up. But Dan Pena just on an absolute tear out there, running a fantastic race. And look at this, John Perkins also making a huge improvement. He's in 7th place and up 9 positions from his starting spot. So we've had some major moves there in 944.
Nice work all through the 944 Spec and Spec E30 fields. Again, 2 very closely prepared Spec racing classes, so it really is a driver's class. Both of these cars are driver's classes, and both have unmatched communities. Taking care of each other, there's always someone willing to lend you a spare part, or even a spare engine, or anything you need in either of these classes, and you're seeing that with Steve Brewster loaning his entire car to Dan Pena after Dan had a motor failure the other day.
Now into turn 3 there, we just saw a video of a slow E30.
Uh-oh.
That's not Barber, is it? I mean, it's a white car out front. I know Barber, I believe, is white with red decals on the side. We'll have to see when he comes through the timing lights again here.
A little bit hard to tell.
What the current situation is, but as of the last time they went by, Barber was 5.1 seconds in front of Silas Montgomery, so a very big lead. I mean, definitely a lot more than what we were seeing there in the camera. So I'm guessing that that was not Tim Barber, but we'll have to see when they come across the line next. And look at this. There's Bizzetti all alone coming up the front straight into turn 1.
Interesting.
So it looks like Phil Hansen has dropped down as well. Darren Griffin now.
There's Marcelo Vine. Let's see who comes next.
Darren Griffith is up into 3rd place, so it's Vine, Bizzetti, and then Griffith.
Oh,
now
wow.
there's Dan Pena up into 4th place.
Yep. You know what? I have a report from control that Phil Hansen is out.
Yeah, I think Phil Hansen did go out there because Dan Pena up a position, but he still does have a 12-second gap to Darren Griffith.
And he's got Michael Cooper. Look at this. Michael Cooper is still just behind Dan, so Dan's taking Michael with him. Come on, buddy. Let's go get some.
Yep. Well, 12 seconds to go, and Dan Pena could be on the podium. Now, he's got 2 944 Spec championships under his belt. But I know a podium finish certainly would not hurt. Another trophy to add to the mantle.
A podium finish after borrowing a car would be pretty legendary.
Oh, I mean, that would be amazing.
There's Dan right there. Michael Cooper just behind. They're in a yellow flag zone, waving yellow again. That may be for our stopped car, which is Phil Hansen, I believe, is stopped right in that neighborhood. Yep, that's probably a yellow for Phil Hansen. His car quit on him out there. So that was a great battle. I mean, Phil and Charlie were taking each other's measure. That was a really, really good fight to watch. E30s are cycling through, so I think Tim Barber's okay. Not seeing him dropping in the order at all.
Yeah, that must have been just another white E30 that we saw going through there because he still does have a 5-second gap back to 2nd place Silas Montgomery. And Sandro Espinoza now up 18 positions into 12th. Jason Griscovage up 5 places into 10th. Some big moves there in Spec E30. Sean Aaron up 16 places. Nick Thiemann up 10 places. Great racing so far.
All right, 30 minutes down, 9 laps complete, working lap 10. 15 minutes left. With how we've been running, that's probably another about 4 laps or so. Marcelo Vine right there. Our 944 Spec leader mixing into the Spec E30 field now. Long gap, there's Charlie Bizzetti. Next 944 through. There's Marcelo. E30, then Charlie. Darren is, well, I don't see Darren.
I mean, he was over 10 seconds behind last time by. So yeah, 15 seconds back to Darren Griffith now. Let's see where Dan Pena and Michael Cooper are. Has he decreased that gap from 12 seconds? 12.522, so not much improvement there from Dan Pena. It looks like he ran a 248.484 and Griffith ran a 248.307, so not making any progress that time by.
Coming into your shot right now, there is Dan Pena once again.
I don't know if we've mentioned this so far in this broadcast, John, but you know, Dan Pena has a history in the Formula Drift series. He was actually the driver of the Drift Patrol Fox Body Mustang. It looked just like a CHP car, highway patrol car. It was a pretty cool time back in the early 2000s in Formula D.
Might explain that mad car control skills that Dan has.
That's right. I mean, he's definitely comfortable sideways.
So he's going to try to make a run on Darren Griffith, but he's got 12 seconds that he has to make up to get on the podium. So Dan Pena is hoping for a full course yellow, but with how wonderfully these folks, oh, big, wow, wide line there. I think that may have been Steve Stepanian that took that really wide line through that last corner there. E30 still Tim Barber, 5 seconds out in front of Silas Montgomery, then Alex Barroso. Stepanian still in 4th. Carlos Mendez holding down 5th place. But he has Brian Edmonds, Olivier Belanger, Brian Goldberg just behind him. So that 5 through 8 spot, that is a great battle in Spec E30. Still that waving yellow. That's probably for Phil Hansen right there in turn 6. You're watching 5 into 6. So they are having to slow down a little bit. Again, that's a no passing zone. So you do have to be super careful when the safety crew is out there working. Oop. Yellow is back in, so they must have gotten Phil out of there.
Whoa, that's a wide line for you.
Interesting line. There's Charlie Bizzetti, I believe.
Yeah, so it looks like still 2 E30s there in between
Yep,
our first and
there's
second
Marcelo
944.
Vine.
I'll make that 3 E30s now.
So about 2 minutes to white flag, so we should see that. Probably our next lap will be looking for a white flag. And that will close out our Group D 944 Spec and Spec E30 championship race. Well, hey, Darren Griffith dropped out.
Yeah, Darren Griffith. I was just looking at
He's
that. Looks
starting
like
to go
John
down the
Perkins
order.
is now up into 5th place, and Darren Griffith
Dan's
dropping
on the
down.
podium.
Hey, look at that.
Oh, bummer for Darren. Yep, Darren is starting to cycle down through the order, so he must have blown up. Such a Cinderella story. Dan Pena there. From the Midwest, small greens. No, I'm kidding. Dan Pena, that is awesome. Comes from the back in a borrowed car to get on the podium. But he's got 30 seconds to catch Charlie.
He does, yeah. He has a massive gap up to Charlie Bizzetti. But you know what I'm wondering is now Michael Cooper's been riding Dan's draft the whole way up there. Now, could Michael Cooper be waiting to make a move?
Yep.
He is only .615 behind Dan Pena. So that's
Very
definitely
true.
going to be a thing to watch because, that final podium spot is a highly coveted space. That is a highly coveted finishing position. So I know Michael Cooper will go for it if he's given an opportunity. So let's see how they do on this last couple of laps here.
So it looks like Darren Griffith was out with a little bit of a shunt. So checkered flag. We're actually going to go straight to checkered next time by. So let's see if we can find Marcelo Vine. That's that 944. Looks like we are going to go checker here.
So this is going to be our final lap here.
That's it. So watch for Marcelo Vine. And he will close out this race for us. There, I think that's Marcelo
that
right
is
there.
Marcelo coming out of turn 19.
Okay, so let's follow Marcelo around. And that will be checkers as he comes around this lap by. We are going checker.
Checkered flag.
There it is. Marcelo Vine, your 944 Spec champion. Let's see if Dan Pena can hold off Michael Cooper.
We just saw Bizzetti come through turn 20. There's a couple of E30s. There's 3 of them. There is a large gap there.
We do have a safety truck dispatching there, so we will watch for.
They may
there's
be
Dan Pena.
Yeah,
he's around.
they're going to be.
They may have a yellow
through that
flag out
section
there
anyway,
at 19. So
that is going to
let's see what
do
happens
it.
right. Well, let's see what happens right here. I think Dan Pena is going to lock it in. Michael Cooper stayed with him the whole time, though.
Yeah, great run by Michael Cooper there. You got to hand it to him.
Dan
he
Pena
hung
on the
tough
podium.
that entire way there. So going over your 944 Spec finishing order. Unofficial, of course, Marcelo Vine in first place, followed by Charlie Bizzetti, and rounding out the podium, Dan Pena. In fourth place, Michael Cooper. John Perkins in fifth, Jeff Weiner in sixth, followed by Thomas Atterbury, Michael Clark, Philip Asteen, Sean Fultz, Shane Denny, Team TSB Racing, and a couple of DNFs there at the end, Darren Griffith, Sean Taylor, Phil Hansen, Norman Hamden, and Tara Brewster.
All right, Tim Barber just took home the Spec E30 championship. He is across the line. Spec E30s are coming across the line now and locking in their positions. Great drive by Tim Barber. Never really challenged from the start. He got a whole shot, and he was eastbound and down.
Yep, green to checker. Let it all
Impressive
away.
race. Hey, while we're here, let's Steve Stepanian's across the line. Actually, Carlos Mendez nipped Steve right at the end.
Whew.
Let's see if we can raise Steve on the radio. Sorry for that loud beep, folks. Hey, Steve, this is John up in the booth. How'd it go, buddy? Doing really well, Steve. That was a heck of a race. Looks like Carlos may have gotten you right there at the end.
You know, as Carlos said, he got me right in the last corner in that yellow. We didn't see a white flag, so I thought I had one lap to get him.
Well, Steve, what a great performance. Congratulations. P5 is nothing to be upset about. So great race, man, and well done.
Thanks, John, and thanks to NASA for putting on a world-class event. I cannot remember having more fun.
All right, buddy, take care and safe travels back home.
Always nice to hear from Steve Stepanian. Always has something nice to say, too. What a great guy.
Steve is really one of the leaders in Spec E30 and has done a great deal for the class, so great to see him there at P5. He did think he had one more lap, but we did have to checker that due to an impact there in turn 19. But we are hearing that was Darren Griffith, but he's just fine from the safety crew. He's doing A-OK, so best result possible. Sad to see Darren's race end that way, but glad that he is okay.
So let's go over our finishing positions for Spec E30, unofficial, of course, until after they go through tech. Tim Barber taking home the win. Congratulations, Tim. Know you had a harder time in Spec Miata there, but nice to see you take home a win, a championship here. Silas Montgomery, second place. Alex Barroso in third. Carlos Mendez, fourth. Steve Stepanian in fifth, followed by Brian Edmonds, Olivier Belanger, Daniel Goldberg, Felipe Pellerin, Jason Griscovage in 10th place. 11th place, Sandro Espinosa after improving 19 positions, followed by Eric Pennington, Corey Smith, Sean Aaron, who is up 17 spots, Scott McKay in 15th place, followed by Nick Tiemann, Rob Eskew, Bennett McMicking, Sean Quinlan, Oscar Edmonds in 20th, followed by Neil Daly, Team Ed Sukchai, Richard Montoni, Benjamin Kirkbride, Charlie Dirador, James Colson, Chris Allen, Gavin Bristow, and Chris Bellew. In 30th place in our first DNF, Clay Pierce, Greg Gamolka, and Eric Sidebotham. What a fantastic race that was, ladies and gentlemen. I believe after this is going to be our lunch break.
Nope, actually we've got a time trial session.
Oh, that's right.
So it's going to be a 40-minute time trial session. We're going to have results that we can look at so we can tell you where the folks will finish in time trial. This is their last session that counts for the weekend, so a little bit of drama coming up in time trial. Then we will have a lunch break. We'll resume with our Group E championship race. Group E, GTS3, GTS4, ST3, ST4. That'll go off at 1:30 Central Time. Then we'll have another small fun run for the time trial guys. Won't cover that, but we may have some interesting commentary. We're looking for guests down there to come talk to us. So next time we will be covering a race will be 2:45 Central. That'll be the Group F championship race. Group F is H1, H2, H3, or H4, all of the Honda Challenge classes. Spec Z, ST5, and the Thunder Roadsters. And we'll finish the weekend with the SM2, which is the consolation race for the folks that weren't in the Toyo Classic yesterday. GTS1, GTS2, PTD, PTE, and the Legends. So still plenty of racing here at the 2018 NASA Championships presented by Toyo Tires at the Circuit of the Americas. We'll take a little break. We'll be right back, and we'll cover time trial for you. Again, the last session for time trial, and that will be determining time trial championships. Stay tuned.